Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Airspeed's Avatar Rewatch video. This one's going to be for Book 3 Fire Episode 14, The Boiling Rock Part 1. And this one's animated by JM Animation, and it's another really good episode. I think basically from like the invasion on, like pretty much most of this season, I think, outside I think of Nightmares and Daydreams, Season 3, every episode is really good. Obviously some are better than others. You have some kind of slower episodes that don't have as many good episodes as others, but especially from the invasion onwards, just amazing episode after amazing episode, because there's so many unique character dynamics of, like, you know, Zuko joins the group. That's an interesting episode. Zuko and Aang firebending training, lore, their dynamic, and just so much stuff in that episode. And in this one, it's like, here is Zuko and Sokka's field trip, and let's introduce a lot of stuff about, like, Fire Nation prisons and how they work, and have it be this really unique Prison Break style episode, and introduce some new characters, have some surprises along the way as the plan doesn't go as expected. And it makes for just a really good two-parter. The second part I think is much better than the first part, but that's kind of to be expected with the setup that they need, in that I think this episode, up until they actually introduce Suki into it, I think is a little slow. It kind of takes a little bit kind of too long to quite get going. In that, I suppose if they really wanted to make this two-parter like perfect, you maybe would have had them immediately arrive and maybe spot Suki immediately the second they arrive, rather than kind of having you know, those initial kind of you know, look arounds, and then, like, just as they think it's a failure, then they spot Suki. But that's just a minor criticism. It is an overall really good episode, because I like what they do here. Now, Zuko is incorporating well with the group. He's giving everyone tea here, tries to make a joke. It doesn't work, but he's still, you know, incorporating into the group. And then you see that Sokka is the one who kind of is having a bit of an issue now, and he just brings up the idea of, like, okay, Zuko, you're from the Fire Nation. You know, what happens to the prisoners? Where are they? You know, the invasion plan didn't go so well. My dad's part of it. Where is everyone? And Zuko basically just says it's this secret prison, the Boiling Rock, middle of a volcano. It's bad. Like, there's very little chance you can do anything here. But Sokka is determined to do it, because I love what they do here in that they play on, you know, aspects of, like, Sokka from the past that hasn't been brought up in a bit, and that is the idea that he's now had a couple of times where he's been kind of powerless to kind of protect people he cares about, in situations of, like, Suki is kind of missing, captured. He couldn't really do anything about what Yue had to do with becoming the moon. He had to be part of the group that escaped from the invasion force, as everyone else, including his father, were captured. And he really feels, you know, somewhat responsible for that. Being, you know, a commander in that battle, coming up with the plan not going as expected, he feels that to get his honor back, he has to rescue all those people and you know, repay what they did for him, basically. And I like it, because in a way, like, that's what these field trips with Zuko are about. It's yes, Zuko forming a friendship with each member of the group and understanding them more personally, but it's also through his dynamic with each of the characters, he understands, I suppose, their kind of character flaws, what they're struggling with, in that in the Firebending Masters he sees, like, how timid Aang is with firebending, and can appreciate that, and I suppose understand him better as a teacher and pupil dynamic. With Sokka here, he understands the idea of, like, he's lost his, like, first girlfriend. His father's been kind of absent for his life a lot because of the war, and now here he is. He was back together, but then this failed battle, you know, he's lost him. And then I suppose seeing Suki here, Sokka's new girlfriend, how important it is that he get her out of this situation as well. So it's, you know, Zuko, I suppose, making amends to everyone by helping them with one of their issues. And it's just a cool thing about, like, how he just honestly does it. He doesn't do it just to get in their good books. He does it because he honestly wants to help. And in this case, it is this important thing of, like, if they got Hakoda back on the team, that's a really, like, important addition to the group if they could get someone with the leadership qualities that Hakoda has, and his tactics going into like a final battle, and anyone else they could get just adds to their forces. So it's an overall, like, for the fate of what they're trying to do here, an important mission, though risky, and that's why obviously they take the war balloon instead of Appa. And I like how they just go on their own, that Sokka wants to keep this something to himself, and Zuko goes along with him to help out. And they leave Aang the firebending training that he has to do, and we get on our way. And I like how immediately they're in the war balloon, so they're right next to each other, there's not a lot of space, and they just kind of have to like force their interaction, and it's really awkward, they don't know what to talk about, and then they get into just talking about girlfriends, and this is where the ice is properly broken, and I think you really see them become friends, and that they're pretty close in age. Zuko is older than Sokka, but it's only like by a couple of months, maybe it's a year or just over a year, but they're closer in age to say like Aang and Zuko at this point in time, there's like enough of an age gap that they're kind of in a way at like slightly different points in their lives, though there's important stuff going on so they can be friends. But there's a much more kind of similar relationship here between these two, which is it's just a cool thing here. How this is what breaks the ice. Sokka just brings up the idea of like you left your family, like there had to have been something holding you back there that didn't make it so simple. And he brings up the fact that May, his girlfriend, was the only real thing in any way holding him back. And Sokka's like, May, oh, her, like really, that's your girlfriend, and he's kind of like pretty like shocked, but he's also like, wow, that's unexpected, but it kind of works in a way. So I like that little dynamic. And then Sokka pointing out that my first girlfriend turned into the moon, and Zuko's reaction is just like, that's rough, buddy. And I'd love to know like what Zuko actually thought of like that statement of like, oh yeah, during the battle up there, the moon went out for a bit, and so that's what happened. So I'd love just like some sort of a little comic where like it's just Zuko's thought process when he's told that by Sokka. Just like, does he make all the connections from what happened at the time, or is he just like, they've got crazy Avatar stuff going on, let's just go ahead with it. But yeah, we get there, they immediately go undercover as guards to investigate the prison, and this is where we obviously get introduced to Chit Sang, who I think is a really, really fun kind of minor character that they introduced in this two-parter. Because what I like about him is that because he's a criminal and he's been there before, like it's kind of like this difficult thing where like, oh, the group shouldn't really be messing around with him because he's a criminal. But then you realize that to Fire Nation prison, and given what their regime is like, it's like, what was he actually put in prison for? Because when you really get to know him in over the course of these two episodes, yes, he kind of comes across like they're very streetwise. He probably has done something wrong, but it's probably not too serious type. So it's like, yeah, he's probably okay, but maybe they shouldn't hang around him like too long type thing. And he just becomes this kind of lovable kind of character that goes forward of just the way he talks, like, here's my girl and my best friend, we're going to escape too. And he says like, let's roll and stuff like that. So I think he's just fun to kind of be like the veteran prisoner in a way. He knows how to make things happen in the prison. There's some really fun moments in part 2 with him, but for here we just get the idea that he's sent to the cooler a lot because he often, argues with the wardens and gets in fights and stuff like that. That he's kind of seen as somewhat of a, I suppose, leader of the prisoners in a way. So it's just a fun dynamic as you kind of get a lot of this stuff going on, where like you have that main guard who kind of has a rivalry with Chit Sang. You get introduced to the prison warden, who obviously has this incredible goal in mind of just forever keeping the Boiling Rock as the prison where no one has ever escaped from. And we don't yet see the extent that he's willing to go through to make that happen, but the way they present him, he definitely like this is something he really cares about, is making sure that his prison is unescapable, and he keeps up this record of like, this is the prison that no one escapes from. And then the reveal that he's May's uncle, and obviously he knows about I suppose May's reaction to what's happened after Zuko's left, that we haven't seen her reaction to the letter, but here is someone telling Zuko right now that her heart's broken, and it's this very tragic thing. And obviously he told Sokka earlier on that he didn't want to involve her in this mess, as I've been talking about more when that happened a few episodes ago, is obviously that he didn't want to in any way bring her into the fact that he was basically, betraying his nation. He doesn't want his girlfriend to kind of be caught up in that and her to be considered a traitor. So yes, it maybe wasn't the most ideal way to leave and just present May with a letter. He probably should have talked to her, but it was his way of, protecting her, so she's just not immediately thrown in prison for like siding with the betrayer kind of type thing. So, it's obviously set up for what's to come in the next episode. But right now, just the fact that Zuko's kind of been captured to a degree. He's now a prisoner in the Boiling Rock at the moment. It's just really fun dynamic of like, Zuko making this sacrifice of like Sokka and Suki have their reunion in the prison, and Zuko kind of on the outside has to give them time, and to keep their guard up, to keep Sokka undercover, they basically have to out Zuko as like the intruder. So it allows basically the dynamic to be really interesting going forward, in that it suddenly means that our two main guys here that have come here can't just escape now. They can't just like secretly escape. Zuko is now noted as like he is in prison here, so something has to happen to get them all out. So the escape plan is even more important now, just to get our main characters out. And I like that throughout the episode there's this constant thing of like, okay, there's no war prisoners in here, and then they hear that there are actually going to be some war prisoners arriving at the prison, and how it initially goes from being, okay, we'll get Suki out, Chit-Sang is going to be part of the plan, Sokka and Zuko, that's going to be our escape group. But then right at the last moment they hear that potentially the group from the invasion could be coming, and there's a chance that Hakoda could be here. And they all, I suppose apart from Chit-Sang, they all side with Sokka, and that they have to wait and see for him, which I like. Suki of course would side with Sokka about this, but I like that Zuko also was kind of okay with it in the end. And Chit-Sang gets himself captured because he gets impatient, and it just means that there needs to be a secondary escape plan. The escape plan was very clever, I think, with the cooler and using it as a boat, and Sokka's use of science to kind of understand that. Along with the fake fight to make it happen, I thought gets Zuko thrown in the cooler by having just this kind of really crazy mock fight with Chit-Sang, where they just they do the crazy acting. It's very similar to the Sokka Katara earthbending fight from like episode 6, I think it was. Her whole earthbending style thing. So I always like the show when it does those really fake fights and the characters go over the top with the acting. But the introduction of Suki here is, I think, very clever, in that in the back of your mind you have to know that she's in Fire Nation prison somewhere, but because no one immediately makes the connection of like, oh, she would of course be in this specific prison, it's kind of hard to immediately predict that. But in a way you could figure it out, in that, okay, Azula captured her, she's Azula's prisoner, and then Azula obviously has a connection to May, so she would have a connection to the warden, so this would be the perfect prison to put like a high profile prisoner in. You could have figured it out maybe at the time, but it still makes it a big surprise because you don't quite expect it, and especially with how they do the reveal of just like Zuko giving the crazy Iroh advice, and then Sokka just suddenly gets excited, and Zuko thinks it's because of the advice, but it's actually just that Sokka spotted Suki, and he's got the hearts in his eyes. And their reunion is nice because in a way it is this thing of like, they're basically a couple, they just haven't spent a lot of time together because their kind of paths have sent them in different directions. They're together now, so I like how it's just reunion, kiss, they're in a relationship, they're boyfriend and girlfriend at this point, and I like that they're just really, really clear about that. And it's something I always praise Avatar for, is that for the most part they never mess around too much with like, oh, this character likes this character, but they're never going to tell each other that, like maybe a lot of anime tends to do. I like how this show is kind of upfront with it, and just like, yeah, these two characters like each other, they're going to start a relationship, and that's that. They're just a couple now, and it's one of those ones where, like, even to this day, people still want to see more Sokka and Suki stuff because of how strong their relationship is in the show. But unfortunately, the comics have kind of separated them to a degree. Not that they've broken up, but they've just had them in very separate parts. And it's kind of, in a way, it represents their entire kind of relationship, that they met, they kind of hit it off, Sokka had to go away, they met again, had to go away, and so on. And then the comics now, they met, go away. So it's just this weird thing of like, wow, the relationship, they often do get split up a lot. But yeah, the reveal at the end, of course, when they don't go ahead with the escape plan, but Chitsang and Ko get captured, and then they see Hakoda walk out of the gondola. And I like that the very end of the episode, like Hakoda arriving by the gondola becomes the escape plan for the second episode, that's the way to get out. If we get, someone coming in on the gondola, we can use the gondola to actually get off the island, and it avoids the fact that there's a boiling lake basically in play. So it's a really kind of fun thing of like that, just that link of like Hakoda arrives on this thing and that's how we're going to get him out again. But it immediately sets up part 2 of being, okay, so we're going to have Sokka still undercover, Zuko captured, of course, still in prison, Suki still in prison, and Hakoda still in prison. And now we're going to see how that kind of dynamic comes into play. And obviously, you have fun things like, oh, this is going to be Hakoda meeting Sokka's girlfriend. This is going to be Hakoda meeting Zuko as well. And we get to see some of those dynamics. From what obviously I haven't watched the episode in a while, but from what I remember, like, it's not really too big of a focus, those relationships. But we obviously see in the comics that Hakoda over time gets a great respect for Zuko and the decision that he has made. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's my thoughts on The Boiling Rock Part 1. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on the episode, as well as what I had to say about it. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.